What's going on, everybody? Josh Engleman for Awesemo.com, and I am back with a special Saturday NFL edition of my contenders and my favorites, my top 5 plays of the day, both on FanDuel and on DraftKings. We're going to kick it off on FanDuel, but first, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Normally, I would tell you to follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman so you can get updates to these sims as we get closer to lock. I am telling you that. You should follow me on Twitter. But there aren't going to be updates closer to lock. Not going to happen today. Last day with the fam coming out of the Christmas holiday. Hope you guys can understand. But I'll be back to normal, posting sim results on my Twitter very, very soon. Finally, let me know in the comments section, who are your favorite options for this Saturday 3-game slate, whether that's on FanDuel or on DraftKings. We're rounding out the bottom of my top 10. With Brandon Ayuk, Devontae Parker, Marvin Jones Jr., Chris Godwin, and Jeff Wilson, who is on the outside looking in. Who are my top 5 plays today on FanDuel? It's time to find out. Coming in at number 5, we're going to Darren Waller, 7,600, projected for 13 fantasy points. Raiders taking on the Dolphins. They're 3-point dogs with a 48-point total. I think that fits pretty well. They should be throwing for most of the game. The run defense for Miami, not all that good. Pass defense ranks 5th in passing DVOA. I'm not super worried about it here. Waller is the threat for the Raiders. Goes for north of 25 fantasy points 5% of the time. Less than 10, 26% of the time, which isn't fun, but what are you going to do? His projection is enough to put him in the optimal lineup 43% of the time. That gets him into the number 5 spot. And as you can see, it's a little bit of a step up over the number 6 guy, Jeff Wilson. We kind of have this delineation where there's a line drawn straight through the center. The top 5 are up north of 40%, 6 through 10 coming in the 30s. We're pretty bunched up on FanDuel, but the consistency is there. And spoiler alert, the 5 guys that are in the top of FanDuel, they're in the top of DraftKings as well. Number 4, we're going to the partner of Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs, 7,600, 14.5 projected fantasy points. Same exact defensive matchup. However, them being the 24th ranked rush defense, significantly more important for Josh Jacobs than it is for Waller. 9% chance going north of 25 fantasy points. Significantly lower chances of having just a full-on bust. That makes sense. Jacobs is just going to naturally be more involved. Only 17% chance that he goes for less than 10 fantasy points. 44.7% of the time, Josh Jacobs is in the optimal lineup. I like using him here. I have no problem using him with Darren Waller, even if you don't have the quarterback. We've seen recently on our Monday morning quarterback shows, getting the running back plus a pass catcher without the quarterback in a lineup just leads to you winning the millie, evidently. So don't be afraid to use that strategy as well. But right now, Josh Jacobs, number 4 on FanDuel. This one's a little tricky. Number 3, DeAndre Swift, 7,200, projected for 14.4 fantasy points, taking on Tampa Bay. This is where it gets kind of, They're 10-point underdogs. It's a 54.5-point total. Tampa Bay's defense, the best in the league at stopping the run. Number 1 in rushing DVOA. Number 7 against the pass. It's not that you're looking for the monster ceiling game here from Swift. Goes for north of 25 points about 10.5% of the time. I think the floor is pretty high here. You got to hope that he's involved in the passing game throughout because they're probably playing from behind. 47% chance, however, of being in the optimal lineup. I like Swift in this spot. If this game happens to stay close, I like it even more. Regardless of game script, though, I think that we see DeAndre Swift from start to finish. That's enough to put him in the number 3 spot. But I'd feel a little bit more comfortable switching sidelines, going to Leonard Fournette, 7K, 14.9 fantasy point projection. A Detroit team that just plain stinks. They're 10-point favorites, 54.5-point game total. Detroit ranks 28th against the run, 31st against the pass. Fournette goes for north of 25 fantasy points about 12% of the time. He goes into the optimal lineup just shy of half of the time, 49.6% of the time. If they get into the red zone, you assume Fournette is going to get those carries. Had multiple 1-yard run touchdowns last week to save his Week 15. I see no reason that can't happen again. I'm not worried about the Lions at all. They are simply not good enough. Game script fits here. They could be using Fournette pretty heavily in the second half. This is a spot you want to go. Fournette gets to number 2. Number 1, though, should be pretty obvious. We're not talking about practice. It's the new Allen Iverson, DeAndre Hopkins. A lot of kerfluffle about him not practicing all that much. Doesn't seem to make a difference when it comes to Hopkins' performance on a Sunday. 8,700, projected for 15 fantasy points. Slight favorites in this game, -5 with a 48.5 point total. San Francisco, middle of the pack in pass defense. They rank 14th. Hopkins going for north of 25 fantasy points 16% of the time. He's one of the few guys on this slate that can have a true bonkers game. We know that he can go for something really crazy. Hopkins has that in his DNA. 49.8% of the time, just a hair ahead of Leonard Fournette, allows him to be in the optimal lineup more frequently than anybody else on the slate. What you're paying for here is true ceiling. I love it. I have no problem going here. He's clearly my number one. There's going to be ownership here, obviously. You don't want to avoid it. He is the best play on the slate. If you're looking for a pass catcher, you cannot do better on Saturday than DeAndre Hopkins. Now, folks, that will round out my top 10 on FanDuel. Ayuk, Parker, Jones, Godwin, Wilson, Waller, Jacobs, Swift, Fournette, Hopkins. Those are the top 10 on FanDuel. I want to break down my top 5 then on DraftKings. But tell me, does this look familiar? While they might be in a slightly different order, Hopkins, Waller, Fournette, Swift, and Jacobs, they're the same top 5. I'm not going to go through this and read off the same stuff. That'd be crazy. So here it is. Here are the top 10 plays on DraftKings. You can see Tom Brady sneaking his way into the top 10, 32% of the time in the optimal on DK. Mike Evans showing up as well, 37% of the time. That's enough to put him in the number 9 spot. And then we start to get a little repetitive. Godwin, Jones, Ayuk rounding out the bottom of my top 10. But the top 5 on FanDuel is the top 5 on DraftKings. A little bit of a mixed up order. As you can see, Darren Waller significantly higher, coming in the number 2 spot, but Hopkins is 1 on both sides. Fournette drops a spot, but you still want him. And you can see that same clean delineation. Below Josh Jacobs, everybody is in the 30s. Everybody from Josh Jacobs and above, 45% or higher opportunity to be in the optimal lineup. You're probably going to need 2 of these guys or 3 of these guys, and it's not out of the realm of possibility that you need 4 out of those top 5. This is the spot to be. That would be the core, whether you're playing on FanDuel or on DraftKings. Hopkins, Waller, Fournette, Swift, and Jacobs. That is my core. Those are the guys that you should have more of across all of your lineups. That should be your focus. Grab those guys. Do what you want at quarterback. I think it's relatively random, but Tom Brady on DraftKings is a little bit better of a lean. FanDuel, on the other hand, it's pretty flat. You can go sort of any direction. But DraftKings, I'm leaning Tom Brady. He's throwing touchdown passes like crazy. We had a mild conversation about this. He's got like 30-some just going off the top of my head. We were guessing significantly lower numbers for Tom Brady's touchdown passes this season than what he actually has. So feel free to roster up Tom Brady and grab a couple more. Obviously, Evans and Godwin looking pretty good, coming in 8 and 9. Looks like a pretty nice stack. Godwin, Evans, Brady. There you go. That's my recommended stack of the day. You get all 3 in the top 10. But that's all I've got, guys. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when it goes live. No sim updates. I will have sim updates tomorrow for the Sunday slate. That I can promise you. So go ahead, check those out. Good luck today, and I'll be back to normal starting tomorrow.